Who's the funniest UFC fighter in the UFC? Well, we're going to be figuring that out today. We've got S tier and D tier. S tier being there one of the funniest fighters to grace the UFC, and then D tier being there extremely overrated in like humour. But yeah, we're going to be ranking the funniest UFC fighters. Starting off with Conor McGregor. I'm going to put Conor McGregor in C tier. No, that's Paulo Costa. I'm going to put Conor McGregor in C tier. Recently, he's just not been funny. Like the recent press conferences he's had with Dustin Poirier were really boring. He was getting flamed. He's quite funny on Twitter. I mean, sometimes it's just really basic insults, but sometimes, especially the True Jody thing, that was funny as well. His old press conferences is what makes him on his list. He was very funny. He was very witty. He knew what to say at the right time. He knew the perfect insults. He got in people's head. He was just a funny guy on the mic. Whereas I feel like nowadays, now that he's like white nosed and he's drunk all the time with his proper 12, I've got to put him in C tier. I've got to put him in C tier. He's not that funny nowadays. Again, it's only really Twitter. We've never seen him in a press conference. Last time we saw him in a press conference was 2021, and he got flamed by a pink suit guy. But he's in C tier for now. I don't find him that funny, but he's funny. He's funnier, like compared to the normal fighter. Then we're gonna go Sean O'Malley. I'm gonna put Sean O'Malley in D tier. I don't find Sean O'Malley funny. People talk about. I don't understand how he's become so big of a star. He doesn't really have much personality. Like really, he's huge. He doesn't like really insult people. He just calls them midgets if he's talking to Pete Yan. He doesn't really insult people. He's not funny. He sounds like he doesn't want to be there all the time. I feel like he's got a really dry personality, but people make it out as if he's some like, god on the mic. Really, he's just a guy who happens to be good at striking with red hair, and that's all he is. I don't find him unfunny. I think compared to like the average person, he's funnier, but he's not like. People talk about him as if he's one of the funniest in the UFC. I don't see it. I just don't see it. I don't think he's that funny. I'm just being honest. I don't. He just seems really dry. Like his personality just seems really dry to me. But people make him out as if he's some sort of like legend on the mic. He's never really had any good press conference moments. He's never really had any massive moments on the mic. All his highlights are just in the octagon, which I mean that's not a bad thing to be known for. But his humour is so overrated. We're going to be moving on. Sean Strickland. I'm going to put Sean Strickland in B tier. Sean Strickland in B tier. I'm going to put him in B tier. Sometimes it can be a little bit annoying. Like his voice is kind of annoying. He sounds like a drunken, like Southern American farmer. So he's got a really loud voice. Sometimes you want him to shut up. Sometimes he just rambles on and on and on and on. So here's the fucking thing, guys. But he can be quite funny. He can be very funny. Like the way he riled Adesanya up at the press conference. And the Joe Rogan podcast, if you haven't seen the Joe Rogan podcast, he makes Joe Rogan so uncomfortable because he just keeps dissing at Adesanya and Rogan just wants to move on. And that interview with, what's her name? Mina or something. I forgot her name. Mina, that brown-eyed girl. Bro, he makes everyone so uncomfortable and it's so funny. If this guy was in a press conference with Adesanya, that's why I want him to face Adesanya somewhat, because his press conference with him will be so funny, but I'll put him at B tier for now. He's funny. Sometimes he can go a little bit, he can start talking for too much. Sometimes he can just rant on about things for too long, but he's a B tier fighter. He is very, very funny. Sean Strickland is known for his humour. Like, if Sean Strickland couldn't talk, he wouldn't even probably be in the rankings, let's be honest. Then we're going to go Rampage Jackson. I'm also going to put him in... I'll put him in C tier, actually. He was funny back in the day, but I feel like he's not that funny. Like, people talk about him as if he's like one of the funniest people to ever grace the UFC, and he's really not. He's had a lot of one-liners, his interviews with women, his interviews with Ariel Helwani, even the press conferences he had, they were good. He kind of had humour based on what other people said. Like, if Ariel was to jab at him, not like literally, but if Ariel was to like poke fun at him, his response would be funny. He'd have good comebacks, but he was never like a one-liner, if you know what I mean. He's not like a Derek Lewis where he just has one-liners where he just says it and everyone starts bursting out laughing. I don't find him that funny, to be honest with you, but He's got good comebacks, let's put it that way. He's got good comebacks, knows the perfect insults as well. He knows really good insults. Doesn't really fit well to his character, considering his character's meant to be this really intimidating guy. And on the mic, he's making these audience NPC members laugh, but he's a C tier on humour. Then we move on. I've just said his name, so I may as well rank him. Derek Lewis, I'm going to put in A tier. Derek Lewis is one of those fighters that has a lot of those one-liners, the Ronda Rousey things, my balls were hot. Even just every press conference he has, man, he's always making highlights. It's a shame his career's kind of gone in the bin, because obviously he's just been on this massive losing streak. But on the mic, he still is so funny, man. Again, he's kind of like Strickland. He just makes people uncomfortable. Knocked out Ronda Rousey's husband, started talking about him. And the interviews with Rogan and stuff. He's a very funny guy. Like, Derek Lewis has never a dull time when he's on the mic. He sounds dull, like his voice sounds like he doesn't want to be there, but he's a funny guy. His fighting style, I guess that's funny as well, but not funny, but I guess that's interesting. But more, he's a funny guy, is what I'm trying to say. He's got good one-liners. Again, if a journalist says something, he'll capitalise on it. His post-fight octagon interviews are always usually funny as well. Really nice guy, really funny guy. A tier for Derek Lewis. Then we're going to go Colby Covington. I'm going to put Covington, I'll put him in, I don't know, it's between B tier and C tier. I'll put him in B tier just because he has good comebacks. Like I said, same thing about Strickland. Sometimes he just goes on for too long and nobody laughs, or he just says like really unfunny things, or he just doesn't shut up in his squeaky voice, but sometimes it can be genuinely funny. I like how he's got a nickname for every fighter. I like the Usman press conferences, how he like basically got rid of Usman. He basically tore Usman's dad apart with those insults, riled up Masvidal so much, and he's a good fighter as well. Isn't he rank 1 in the world, rank 2 at welterweight? Really good fighter as well, but he's funny. He annoys every fighter, every single fighter. That thing about Wonderboy Thompson driving kids around in his karate truck, whatever it was. He's a really funny guy. He's got so many one-liners, so many press conference highlights. But again, sometimes it can just be annoying. Like the thing that makes him like a B tier, not A tier, is he goes for every fighter. So it's not like they're just rare. You just know that he's going to talk about him. So the fact that you expect it kind of knocks off his humour a little bit, and he's got a really loud, squeaky voice, and he never shuts up as well. So I'm going to put Colby Covington at B tier. The king of press conferences, though. Then we're going to go with Nate Diaz. I'm going to put Nate Diaz in... I'm going to put him in A tier as well. He's funny because he never really tries to be funny. He's got a lot of one-liners. I keep saying that about everyone, but even just his press conferences. The whole Conor McGregor thing, he was able to outwit him some of the times. The post-fight octagon interviews as well. The way he talked about Khamzat Chimaev, and just the way he talked about fighters, and the fact that he was high like 90% of the time. Like he'd be in a room full of journalists just sat there smoking. He's got such a funny voice as well. Sounds like he doesn't want to be there. Looks like he doesn't want to be there. He's just real, man. He's real. That's what I prefer it when fighters are real and they're funny, not just when they're poked fun at. Even on The Ultimate Fighter ages ago, when he was like on The Ultimate Fighter, he was funny then. He's always been a funny guy. He's just real, man. That's why he's so funny. He's just real. He's Nate Diaz, one of the funniest to ever do it. Sometimes he can be a bit unfunny, but did you see the Jake Paul press conference? The way he was slurring everything. He didn't get a single question, man. He was just slurring everything. But I'll put him in A tier. Then we move on. Tony Ferguson. I'm going to put Tony Ferguson S tier. I think he's the funniest UFC fighter. Again, he doesn't try and be funny. He's just naturally funny. Like, the Tony the type of guy memes are hilarious as well, but it's just the fact the time when he was that Brazilian guy, what was it? I forgot his name, but he used to fight in the UFC. That like light heavyweight Brazilian guy was talking to him, and he says he can't understand. Said he can't understand him, and then 2 seconds later gets offended by him. Or the time when he broke his student's rib. he's got so many iconic moments, man. He's so funny as Tony Ferguson. He's got every single press conference. This is what I mean. He's the king of press conferences as well. That Dana White privilege thing with Michael Chandler. The way he got Kevin Lee, the way he interviewed Kevin Lee and got him annoyed as well. Such a funny guy. The way he conditions, the way he trains, everything about him is funny. It's not just his even his fight style, the way he's throwing sand at people and doing roly-polies. His fight style, his training style, his mic skills, everything's funny, and that's why he's an S-tier fighter. It's not like he forces it or anything. He's just a really funny guy. You wouldn't think he's such a good fighter. His brains aren't there. He has no brains up there. He just waffles. He's kind of like Tito Ortiz, but a better fighter. Tony Ferguson's an S tier. I find him really funny. I think he's the funniest in the UFC. Yeah. Then we're gonna go Paddy Pimblett. I'm gonna put him at D tier, man. That press conference he had with Ilia Topuria was really unfunny. He's been at one press conference and it was so unfunny. Calling Ilia Topuria a Spanish sausage, and his laugh, like he's up there with like proper guys like Jan Blachowicz, Ankalaev. Who else was on that pay-per-view? Dricus du Plessis. And he's just there in his high-pitched voice, unranked high-pitched voice, just screaming. He's not funny. He's really not funny. He just calls people... He's got unfunny insults. You can't find this guy. What has he said that's funny? Hand sanitizer boy. That's what he calls Ilia Topuria. Hand sanitizer boy. What's that even supposed to mean? He threw hand sanitizer at this. That's his nickname now, is it? I don't see it. I don't find Paddy Pimblett funny at all. I find him, even Sean Strickland, funnier than him. He's just not that funny, really, is he? Then we move on, Paulo Costa. I'm going to put Paulo Costa at the top of B tier. Paulo Costa's kind of funny. His Twitter is the best thing ever. The way he trolls fighters on Twitter. I mean, that entire thing with Tracy Cortez. And everyone else, he goes out on Twitter as well. Dana White as well. What was that picture? He uploaded a picture between like Dana White and Rose Namajunas. It was so funny. He just annoys every fighter on Twitter. He's quite funny on the mic. He doesn't really speak too much on the mic though. Like, he's not known for his press conference highlights or anything. He did kind of rile up Adesanya by calling him skinny and stuff, but he also gets annoyed quite a lot. Like, after Adesanya beat him, he was really angry and salty, so he's kind of hit or miss with Costa, but most of the time he's funny. His Twitter is the funniest thing ever. Like, he winds up everybody. But yeah, I'm going to put Costa at B tier. Finally, we've got Israel Adesanya. I'm going to put him at D tier as well. I don't find him funny at all. He's just cringe, if anything. Like, his dancing, his one-liners, his fight style, his press conferences, none of them are funny. Name one thing he's ever said that's funny at a press conference, man. One thing he's ever said. I'm going to dance on your TikTok grave. I'm going to do a TikTok dance on your grave to Sean Strickland. Oh, really funny. I don't find how this guy's funny. He's a good fighter, really talented fighter. You know, he's got some great people on his resume. Funny-wise, he's not there. He tries so hard to be funny and he's just not. People genuinely talk about this guy as if he's like funny. He's not. He's just really not funny. What has he said that's funny? What has Israel Adesanya said that's actually funny at the press conferences? Even Pereira was funnier than him at the press conferences. Pereira doesn't even speak. Costa was funnier. Vettori was funnier. Cannonier wasn't funnier, but he's boring as well. Yeah, Adesanya's just not that funny at all. Really overrated. I'm not saying he's got a dull personality. Just, what has he ever said that's made anyone laugh? But that's my list. If you agree or disagree with any of these fights, please let me know. But I think Tony Ferguson's the funniest fighter, and I think Paddy Pimblett, Adesanya, and Sean O'Malley just aren't that funny. But that's my list. Please let me know if you agree.